Hey, this is Joey Molland from Badfinger here. You're listening to DC's Barside Jive.
Welcome Joey Molland to Barside Jive. Joey, it is great having you here, man.
It's nice to be here, really. Thanks a lot for having me, man.
Oh, Joey, been listening to you since day one, I guess. So it's a real honor to have you on the show. It really is. Really appreciate it.
I've been coming to Texas about that long, you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, it's a great place. I got relatives down there, and I got a good friend of mine in Dallas, Gary Hayes, sound man, tour manager, and just people all over the place.
Really?
Yeah.
How often are you in Dallas?
Well, not so much anymore, but we used to be there. We used to come at least once, twice a year.
Oh, wow.
And I come down there occasionally and do like the Nokia or something like that.
Yeah.
I do package tours and things now as well as I've got a little band, Joey Molland's Badfinger, and
right.
So I do some Badfinger stuff, and I do solo performances as well, acoustic things, come in and talk about what's going on and what's going on, and play a few songs that I've written, but I've always had myself a good Time down there, down on Padre Island and all that stuff, down at Corpus Christi, man. Used to go down there regularly and get all band up and everything.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit warmer here than where you're at.
Just a little bit,
yeah. So you're still in Minneapolis?
Yes, I am, sir.
Yeah.
I've lived there about, I guess, 83. So what, 30 odd years, 35, 37 years or something. Wow. My wife was from here.
Oh.
My wife Kathy, I met her in 1970, and we got married in 72. She passed away 2009, but by that time I'm used to Minnesota here. I really enjoy it, and I've got a lot of friends. Great music scene.
Yeah.
A lot of great players, man. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, enjoy it. It's good.
I guess living in Minneapolis though is quite different than living in Liverpool.
Oh, yeah, it's a different world, isn't it? Of course, man. Yeah. They are similar in the way that you can generally afford to live there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've actually spent a few days in Liverpool back in 2013, I think it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I did the whole Beatles thing. I mean, I was living in the Middle East, so I vacationed a lot while I was there, and
Sure.
I went to, all the regulars, all the tourist sites, Strawberry Field, Penny Lane, the Cavern Club, Albert Docks, the Beatles, their childhood homes, St. Peter's Church. I did the whole tour thing, and it was awesome. Having heard those songs from a little bitty guy, and getting to see the, the locations that they grew up, they talked about in the songs. It was awesome.
Sure. I've done that myself, and I do it when I go back there. I generally go back there every couple of years, do a few shows, play the Cavern and all that. I've been playing the Cavern since I was, 16 or something like that.
Wow.
And that's 1963, So I've had a lot of great times, and I grew up there completely, all my childhood, school days and all that stuff.
Like Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, you knew those locations.
Yeah, Penny Lane.
Before they were popular, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Penny Lane was really pretty close to where I lived. Johnny's house up there on Menlove Avenue and all that. It was on the way to Walton Woods for me, so I used to go out there as a kid and play bows and arrows and all that, and crossbows and all the stuff, you know, the way you do. And
Wow.
so, yeah, all over Liverpool, I learned to play guitar on the corner. You're not going to believe this, but on the corner of Penny Lane, there's a little post office box
Right.
as it comes down the hill from the park. And me and my mate used to stand around, hang around that post office and along the telephone box, I should say,
Right.
and learning to play the guitar on the corner there. Yeah, it was good, man. Yeah, yeah, I had a great time. Liverpool's a great place to grow up. You know what I mean? It was knockout.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, so I actually, you know, I flew into Heathrow, right?
Yeah.
In London. And so I spent a few days in London before I went to Liverpool, and I spent a few days on my return trip just seeing the sights in London. And
Yeah.
you know, I was by myself, but I would talk to Londoners, and they would always ask me, why would you want to go to Liverpool?
Wow. That's because they're from London.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like, it was a place. Why would you go there? There's nothing there. Why would you want to go to that town? You know, it's well, because the Beatles were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they forget about that, or they try.
Yeah. They just wish they were from London. You mentioned playing guitar on Penny Lane. What kind of music were you playing?
I was playing Chuck Berry songs, you know.
Chuck Berry?
Yeah, Buddy Holly and that stuff, but Chuck Berry mainly. You know, I heard Elvis first. I heard him doing Blue Suede Shoes when I was 11 years old. And it turned me on, man. That record actually changed me from being that kid with the bows and arrows and everything to being this kid that wanted to play the guitar.
Wow.
I mean, I'm dead serious, that exact record. The record finished, I went and got my brother's guitar out. I am not kidding. I went and got my brother's guitar out, and he had the guitar in the front parlour, and this had my brother Chris. And I got his guitar out and started learning to play. And it took me about 4 years to get anywhere near I could, you know, play a Chuck Berry song and play the solo and all the rest of it. And,
right.
Man, it knocked me out. I don't know what it was about. Blue Suede Shoes by Elvis Presley. You can play that record anytime. You know, I'm dead serious. Love it. Love all that. And then I grew up then, you know, started growing up. And that turned me on to music. And then I started listening to all the American, and of course, Chuck Berry came right up. You know what I mean? On the radio. I used to listen to this little radio station out of Europe. It's called Radio Luxembourg. And they played all that rhythm and blues stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sweet Little 16 and all that, reeling and rocking. I mean, come on, just incredible. I'm telling you, I got known in Liverpool a little bit anyway about being a heck of a Chuck Berry guitar player. You know, I got jobs because of it.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I learned all the ins and outs of that rhythm that he used to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It knocked me out for some reason, and I use it a lot now. Even now, when I'm making records or playing, and I always try and squeeze a Chuck Berry song in there. You know.
You know, during that time, everyone was infatuated with American music, weren't they?
That's for sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it was the best. You know, the groove was fantastic. The singers were incredible. You know, white or black, the singers were incredible.
Yeah.
The musicians were great. They were bending strings and doing things like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was just great. James Burton, all those guys were coming out. They were just fantastic. You know.
Right.
My dad had brought me up. He loved Americans. He loved American cars. He loved the way American guys dressed. You know.
Right.
England's suits were brown and black, you know, and grey. In America, suits were turquoise blue and shit like that.
Right, colorful.
They were colourful and they were cool. And Americans, man, I noticed this. You might not notice this, but Americans talk. The guys do. They walk with a kind of swagger to them. You know what I mean? There's something about being American that puts that in you. And so we'd see that in guys. You know what I mean? And you know the way they played, the cool jackets they wore on stage, and all the rest of it, man. It was a completely fascinating thing for an English kid, you know.
Right.
just unbelievable.
Right.
When I grew up a little bit, I got myself a 58 Thunderbird.
Really?
Yeah, they had a 58 Seabird in London, red and white.
Oh man, sweet.
Yeah, man, it was really cool. Unbelievable. My old lady, American, of course, she loved it. We
Oh
turn
yeah.
the radio on, wait for it to warm up, you know. Just fantastic, incredible, like a rocket ship.
Yeah. Don't you wish you still had it?
Yes, I do, man. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. No, it's long gone. No. Well, it was a great time though, growing up and all that stuff going on. You know.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, you were doing it in Liverpool and I was doing it here in Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're 73, right? No,
I am. I'm 73 years old. Yeah.
You're a young 73 and the last remaining member of the classic lineup of Badfinger. I know you've seen it all. You had a first class seat of the ups and downs of rock and roll stardom, right?
Yes, I did.
And Badfinger has definitely had one of those, you might say, sadder stories in rock and roll history. Now, looking back over your career, which spans now 5 decades, what thoughts come to Joey Molland about the band?
I enjoyed it. It was a great time for me, being successful like that and writing songs and, you know, putting yourself into something that gets successful is a great, wonderful feeling. We were great pals. You know, we all lived in the same house. Of course, when we met our girls, we separated and stuff, but that was the kind of band it was. We all rode in the band together. We had a good time. We recorded the songs we liked. Of course, the Beatles afforded us a real luxury kind of version of being a rock band. We got to record in Abbey Road, you know, and we could go in Abbey Road and work on songs. You know what I mean? We didn't have to have things ready. You know, we could go in there and work them out.
Right.
It was great. We had a lot of treats came to us like that, and that was through the songwriting. You know, learning to write songs.
Right.
We'd all learn that. You know the way you learn your licks. You play around town, and you learn your licks, and you do your gigs, and you learn the people, and you meet the people, and you develop a little kind of social thing with the audience and all that. We had all that when we went there, and then they signed us to Apple, and we brought all our experience in with us. You know, that's why George and those guys asked us to play with them, because we'd been raised in the same places, played all the same clubs, listened to the same records, we had the same upbringing, same schools and everything. And so when George played us Beware the Darkness, although it was a bit of a lengthy song and a bit complicated, the form of it was something we knew, you know?
Right.
Intro, verse, chorus, bridge, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we knew all that. We could grab the songs really easy. And so they kept on using us. Even John Lennon called us and said, get those guys, bring them down here, because we could grab the songs really quick.
Right.
It was the time of our lives. Being in Badfinger was fantastic. Yeah.
So did you guys know Paul and George and Ringo, and did you, when you were growing up in school, did you know each other? Did you run into each other in the clubs?
No. They were about a generation ahead of us.
Okay.
Like 3 or 4 years ahead of us, really. And we knew them. We only knew them from seeing them play at the Cavern, and then, of course, we got to know them over the years on telly. And you know, they were really normal Liverpool blokes, the Beatles.
Right.
George Harrison is a very regular Liverpool guy.
Right.
And so we kind of felt like we knew them. And when we met them, it turned out we did. You know, they liked the same kind of jokes. They liked the same kind of jeans. They liked the same kind of boots. They liked the same stuff. You know what I mean? So
right.
So yeah, we kind of knew them, although we'd never really met them, you know, until then.
So
you know,
was the first time you saw them in the Cavern Club?
Yeah, saw them playing, yeah. And that was the only place I ever saw them playing in the early days. There were other clubs in Liverpool, but I never really went to them, a couple of them, and then I played in most of them, but not at that time. I was only, 14 or so, 15 in that era. when the Beatles were playing around Liverpool. You know what I mean? So
Right, right.
yeah, yeah. They were really good. So mind you, there were a lot of good bands in Liverpool. The Beatles weren't my favourite band. I liked a band called the Nomads, which was more of a rhythm and blues band than the Beatles. And bluesy stuff. And they became the Mojos, had a few records of their own, you know, but that was just what it was, you know. The Searchers were there. They were really good.
Right.
All those bands you heard of from Liverpool, really pretty good bands. Good singers, man. Good players. The guitar players were great. You know how scary that was? You know, when you're young and you go to a club and you're learning to play and you see the other bands playing and how good they are.
Right.
And it's really scary. You don't think you'll ever be good enough to join a band. You know, so that's what it was like in Liverpool. The competition was excellent. It was excellent.
You know, your recording career, I guess, really started in about 1967 when you were with Gary Walker and the Rain, right?
Yeah, I'd actually made a record before that with a group called the Masterminds out of Liverpool. I'll tell you a story. I used to be in this band, the Masterminds. We used to be the house band at the Blue Angel, which you may have heard of. It was a late night drinking club in Liverpool. Right. And I got in the house band there, and we were in there one night playing, and the Rolling Stones came in. Andrew Luke Oldham was with him. He's their manager, right?
Right.
And he hears us play this Bob Dylan song, "She Belongs to Me," which we used to do in those days. It was really early to do a Bob Dylan song, but everywhere, "She Belongs to Me." He hears it, and he comes over to us. He says, "Hey, my name's Andrew Luke Oldham," and that was great. That Bob Dylan song he just plays us knockout. You want to come to London and make a record? So we went crazy. Yeah, we wanted to. We thought about making a record, man. You know what I mean? So we went down there and recorded 2 songs for Immediate Records, which was Andrew Luke Oldham's record label. You know, the Small Faces were on it. The Who were around there. All that stuff. Anyway, so that was my first record. It did okay. It didn't do great, but it did okay. Enough for us to get out of town gigs from Liverpool. You know what I mean?
Right.
They played around England for a couple of years, and then Gary Walker and the Rain came up, and that's a long story. But I went and auditioned and got the job, and moved in with Gary Walker, the drummer. He was the drummer with the Walker Brothers, you know.
Wow.
And the Walkers were huge, and they were from California, you know.
Yeah.
They were a California band. But anyway, I got to play with Gary, and soon, you know, 6 months went by, and then we went in the studio and made a record. Yeah.
Wow.
Started writing songs then, you know. Yeah. Started to get ideas. It was weird. Weird how that happens. I don't know if you write songs, but, you know, you start to get ideas, and, you know, you wanted to be like Chuck Berry or something, you know what I mean?
Man, it all circles around and comes back to Chuck Berry, doesn't it?
That's right, man. That's exactly right. Yeah.
What a loss when he passed away, man.
Yeah.
That was pretty devastating.
You got that great 28, yeah? That great 28 record.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you own all those albums?
I've got all his music. I don't own all the albums, but I've got all his music.
Yeah.
I've got everything. A friend of mine, actually, a fellow named Jerry Hovey, ran a music store up here. He knew that I loved Chuck, and I've got a bunch of his records. But he came to me one day with a stack of CDs like that. He said, "There's everything Chuck Berry ever recorded," and I've got it here. Yeah. Unbelievable.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, man. Almost, you go through the Billboard book and look at all the Chuck Berry records.
Yeah.
It is astounding.
Oh, yeah.
So great. So great.
I love the story when Keith Richards, I guess in the green room, found his guitar and picked it up, and then Chuck Berry just knocked the shit out of him. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard about him putting him out. And Keith Richards tells the same story, doesn't he? You know?
Yeah. Yes. Hilarious. Yeah. You are watching Barside Jive with my guest, singer-songwriter and guitarist, Joey Molland of English rock band Badfinger. Joey, it seems to me that oftentimes the UK bands saw more success in the US, and the American bands saw more success in the UK, but like in Japan, they loved everybody.
Yeah, you got that right.
Right?
You got that exactly right.
I mean, if you want to be really popular, you go to Budokan, right? Joey Molland and Budokan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Gary Leach took me to Japan in '68.
Yeah.
He said, when we get there, you have to remember it's like you're in the Beatles. And we were laughing about it, you know, yeah, sure, we're going to be that big. But when we got off the plane, there were 5,000 girls at the airport. Yeah.
You knew they weren't lying.
No, they weren't lying, man.
No. Joey, when Gary Walker and the Rain disbanded, you auditioned for the Ivies back in about 1969.
Yeah.
Were the Ivies already on the Beatles' Apple label when you joined the band?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they'd been on for about, they signed for songwriting, really, for publishing. And then the Beatles signed them to the record label as soon as they started it. And the Ivies had made an album for them called Maybe Tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
With that Tommy Evans song, the Maybe Tomorrow song. And that came out under the name of the Ivies. It didn't do as well as they hoped. But it did pretty well in Europe, Italy, places like that, but not particularly in England. And they started to feel like they wanted to get more rock and roll back in the band sound. You know, when they started writing songs, they'd gotten a bit twee sounding, you know, they got very light in their way of playing and stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, they always were a bit of a rock band in Swansea. You know, Swansea's a great rock and roll city. And they were one of those bands, rhythm and blues, rock and roll. We call Chuck Berry music rhythm and blues in England, you know.
Yeah.
It's not rock and roll, it's rhythm and blues. And so anyway, they wanted to get back to that, you know what I mean? And that was part of the reason why I think the bass player left Ron. And that gave me the chance to come down and audition. Getting a bit a roundabout way of telling the story, really. But Tommy decided he wanted to play bass, you know? And they were looking, so they started looking for a guitar player, and a guy recommended me for the job. So I went and auditioned. I was kind of a bit spooked about it because I'd seen them on television as the Ivies.
Right.
And they were very poppy. They were very poppy. I mean, it was soft music as well as being, you know, songs about love and all that, you know.
Right.
So they were very poppy. I was a bit worried about that because I really like me Chuck Berry. I really like that stuff, you know.
You were rock and roll.
Yeah, I liked it. I like beat music.
Right.
You know, we used to call them beat groups, you know what I mean? And so I like that kind of music. I was raised with it. I played it all my life. And I nearly didn't go, but my friends were in Liverpool were going, no, you got to go, Joe. They're working with the Beatles, and they're a really good band. Go and see them. They're really good. And so I went down to see them, and it turned out they were really nice blokes, and they could play. Pete could play the shit out of the guitar, man.
Yeah.
Pete, yeah, he was extraordinary guitar player.
Yeah.
Slide guitar, yeah. Unbelievable. I could play a little bit of slide, but man, he was all over it. And he played a bit of piano and sang. Tommy and he could sing like this. I mean, and full voice, hard, high rock and roll.
Yeah.
They could actually sing that stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow, yeah.
You know, everybody wants to sing like Little Richard, don't they? Everybody.
Yeah.
You know, even Paul McCartney wants to sing like Little Richard. And that's a fact.
Right.
So, anyway, so they had all that going for them, and I was happy to get the job. Pete was a little bit worried about me guitar playing because he was he was trained and everything. I learned to play by ear. And so he was a little bit, shaky about my playing. And but he didn't say anything to me about it. I know he said something to Tommy and me, but they said, "No, he's really good. Get him. Let's get him. So Tommy and Mike got me the job, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Were you a little bit intimidated?
No, not really. Not really. You know, like I say, I wasn't like over the moon, you know, about it. You know, it wasn't like I was going to be George Harrison's best friend next week or anything like that.
Yeah.
I was joining another band, and I like to play. I love to play, but I love to play me rock. I love it, you know.
Right. But dude, you were like joining a band that was signed with the Apple label. I mean, to me, that's like huge. It's not like, oh, okay, it's cool. I mean, that's just.
You know, I'd already done. No, signing with the Beatles label was something else, yeah. And that is a blast. Even being around them is a blast. But I'd already made records. I'd already written songs, and they'd been successful for me. You know what I mean? And I'd already been around the world, and I'd already done those things.
Okay.
I wasn't blasé about it.
Yeah.
But I was looking for the gig. I went for the job with the Moody Blues. You know what I mean? When a good gig came up, I always wanted to get it, and the only way to get it was knock on the door on it and say, oh, you know, I'd like this job. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right. But it was business.
So
it was
moving along. It was moving along, getting somewhere. You know what I mean? I really loved that about it. I was kind of ambitious, but no, I just loved it so much. I wanted to keep doing it. I was amazed when I got a job, and then I was amazed that I kept on getting jobs. You know what I mean? Like Gary Walker had all sorts of people want to play with him. You know, and the Ivies had 25 guys come and audition guitar players, people you've heard of, you know, came and played for them, but they didn't like them for some reason. But when I came, they said, yeah, get this guy. That's what they said to themselves, get this guy. Which amazed me, but, you know, it was a knockout. Then we started to, you know, go to Apple Records, and then that all dawns on you. And then you see John Lennon come in, and, you know, the room gets warm when John Lennon walks in. You know, it's a different thing, you know, and he's that normal guy, like, all right, how are you? You know, what's going on? You know, that's what he's like, you know. Yeah. And so you're around the guys, you know, and they treat you like a normal bloke, and they expect to be treated like a normal bloke. Yeah. Treated like Beatles, you know. Yeah. It was funny, man. It was funny. It was great, man.
During that time that you were associated with Apple, I mean, you didn't just rub elbows with the Beatles, but you actually appeared on 2 of George Harrison's albums, All Things Must Pass and The Concert for Bangladesh, right?
George just asked us would we come and play some guitars. He wanted some acoustics on his record, All Things Must Pass. And so he asked the Badfinger lads to come and play acoustics for him. So we did. We went down, and Pete and Tommy and I took our guitars, and we walked in the studio that day, man. There was Ringo Starr, Eric Clapton, Billy Preston, and Klaus Voormann, and George Harrison. Wow. And in the control room was Phil Spector. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. That's right. So George came right over to us. It was really nice. This was the first time I'd actually met him, sat with him, you know. It was really sweet. We're just going to do a bunch of me songs, he said, you know, and the first one, and I think it was Wah Wah. And it goes like this, got a guitar lick, down, you know, he played the lick. And then he said, now I want you guys to come in, ding, 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 really on that acoustic. He said, and I don't want you going ding, jigga, jigga, ding, jigga, ding. None of that. Just jingum, 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 jingum. With the hi-hat, you know what I mean, or something? So play like that. And he said, don't screw around with it. You know, and he'd tell everybody that. Don't screw around with it, just play it. Right. So there it was, and we started, and the next thing you know is My Sweet Lord, Beware of Darkness, All Things Must Pass, all of these songs. And he always had them together, George. It was great. You know, he'd come in and sing it to you, you know? Right. It was lovely, man. To have a Beatles sit right here and sing you his song. Wow. And you can see him looking in your eyes. and seeing if he thought you liked it or not.
Right. Yeah, you can't hide, right?
No, you can't hide. There's no hiding.
No,
Yeah. Anyway, so it was a great treat. We went to work for about 3 weeks, played on all the songs, did the job for them, and that was that. The record. When we heard the record, we couldn't believe it. Actually, George was meticulous. You know, hearing Eric working out those slide bits.
Yeah.
While we were doing the learning the track, you know, the backtrack, Eric would be working out the lead. You know, whether it was a slide lick or whether it was a regular fingering. You know, but he'd be there. You know, he'd be there for hours. Do 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 do. And you'd hear this going on all the time. Yeah. He was really meticulous too. He would come in. You know what was great about those guys? They'd bring their own gear. They'd bring their own guitars and their own little champ. You know, everybody played 2 little champs. And they'd plug them in themselves. You know, they'd plug themselves in, tune the guitar up themselves.
Wow.
You know, and they were like every other guitar player in the world. They'd need a first or a second or something. Or, have you got any picks? You know, have you got any picks?
Yeah.
They were all like that. It didn't matter that they were selling out stadiums, you know. They were still these musos, you know.
Well, they pretty humble?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, because they always, you know the way guitar players are, man. You know, if you play the guitar, you've seen a million great guitar players. You know, they can walk around you, play around you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it's like being a guitar player, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, there are millions of guys who can play. Some of them are fantastic. And that's what they'd been exposed to, the same thing. They were big time. They were big time about their bands. You know, the Beatles loved the Beatles. You know what I mean? They thought the Beatles were the best band in the world. Just like Led Zeppelin thinks Led Zeppelin is the best band in the world. Or the Rolling Stones. They think the Rolling Stones are the best band in the world. That's the way bands are.
Yeah.
So all of that was normal. All of it was normal. They still carried their own guitar. They still carried their own amp. Plug themselves in, tune their own guitar.
Awesome.
You know? So
that's awesome.
That's the truth of that.
Did you know Pete Best and Stu Sutcliffe as well as?
No.
Okay.
No, I saw Pete Best with them very, very early. And I know Pete now, of course.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've met him over the years and stuff. He's a lovely guy. There's no bitterness in him, you know, about all that scene. And it's not quite as smooth as everybody thinks, but, it was hard on him, really.
Yeah.
Sweetheart guy, though. Sweet guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and Badfinger's lead singer, Pete Ham, bassist Tom Evans, and drummer Mike Gibbons saw some really quick success with Badfinger, didn't you guys?
Yeah, we did. We put that first single out. Well, Come and Get It came out, the one that Paul wrote.
If you want it, here it is. Come and get it. But you better hurry, 'cause it's going fast.
Right.
That was a big hit.
And that was the time when Paul told you guys.
Yeah, play it just like this.
Yeah. And you'd have a hit.
Yeah, but he said, it'll be your first hit, and I'll produce it. It'll be your first hit record. That's what he told him.
And you did, and he did, and it was.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a giant hit all over the world. It didn't help us with work, funnily enough, because it was such a pop song and such a movie theme kind of thing. It didn't help us with gigs. We couldn't actually get university gigs in England. You know that?
Right.
Because music was changing. It was becoming more head music. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was changing. And that song was such a pop song. We could only get jobs as a pop group, you know? Honest to God, thank God America gave us a chance. And we were learning, music was getting into that jammy area, you know? Songs were getting longer and things like that. And we brought all that into our music over the next couple of years. But yeah, we had 2 years, yeah?
Wow. You guys had 4 consecutive worldwide hits with Come and Get It.
If you want it, here it is. Come and get it. Make your mind up fast.
Which was produced by McCartney, as we talked about. No Matter What was produced by Mal Evans. I didn't know that. A Beatles roadie and their personal assistant, right?
No matter what you are, I will always be with you. Doesn't matter what.
Day After Day, produced by George, we've talked about. And my favorite, Baby Blue, which was produced by Todd Rundgren.
That's right, yeah.
Big names.
Yeah.
Except for Mal. I didn't know who Mal was.
Yeah.
I had to look him up.
He was a Beatle roadie.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. He got in. I mean, I guess he did a pretty good job, right?
Yeah, they gave it to him. You know, the Beatles.
Yeah.
They gave him the thing. You know, he'd been listening to the Beatles making records.
Yeah.
You know, and they'd made all those great records, and he applied the exact same thing to us. He let us work the song out. He let us arrange the harmonies. He picked the bits that he liked, and he told us the things that he didn't like. He didn't throw the bits out, but he'd say, I'm not fussy about that, you know, but that guitar line works good, or that harmony works good. And he was really good. And Jeff Emmerich was engineering. We had the same engineer, you know, so Jeff was he was great, man. Wow. You know, Abbey Road, the studio's big enough where you could set the band up like a band. And they had a little Shaw Vocal Master PA in there, so you could actually rehearse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'd learn the song like you would play it as a band. You know, like No Matter What.
Right.
It's a beat group song, you know. You don't need anything else, and you can play it and sound like a record. You know?
Right.
So
Right.
that's what we really thirsted for that. We got to really be thirsty for it after when we worked with George, when we were doing Day After Day and that, and we were doing loads of overdubs then, you know, and we'd be overdubbing acoustics on top of the band, you know, to fatten up the sound or smooth it out. You know, it was just what happened. It was difficult. We couldn't do Day After Day on stage. You know, we thought it sounded like crap, really, because, well, because we didn't have like 8 acoustic guitar players with us. You know what I mean? And 16 singers.
Yeah.
You know, we used to go and do 3 of us singing oohs and ahs, go and do 4 tracks of that.
Yeah.
We used to do all the vocals together, you know, the 3 backing vocals. We'd do them together, you know?
Right.
All around the same mic. So we do like 3 or 4 tracks. And when you get on stage and you go to play the song, the song sounds weird to you. It doesn't sound right, you know. So we used to not do it. Day After Day, it was number 1. It was number 1 and we'd leave it out.
Right.
We'd just leave it out of the show.
Looking out from my lonely room, day after day.
Baby Blue is a great record. I heard it, I remember years later, I saw that movie, The Departed. And there's a scene in that where they use Baby Blue.
Right.
When they're having that fight in the apartment there.
Yeah.
And it comes in on Mike's drum break, which is just tremendous.
Yeah.
He does a drum break in the middle of the song. It's really incredible. And it reminded me just how good a rock record that is.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, it is.
It is a knockout. It's a, yeah, and I agree with you. It's my favorite out of those hit records that Badfinger did.
You know what? It'd be really cool.
What?
Is if you played a little bit of it.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that. It's on acoustic, so it'll sound like an acoustic song. Like, yes, I got what I deserve. kept you waiting there too long, my love. All that time without a word. Did you really think that I'd forget and regret? Special love should have tuned up my baby blue. If that's all I have to say, my phone's a junk.
It's the fans, Joey. They're calling. They're calling in.
That's the neighbor upstairs telling me to shut up.
Joey, that is awesome. Guys, you are still watching Barside Jive with my guest,
on the
singer,
phone.
songwriter, and guitarist Joey Molland of English rock band Badfinger.
You go, won't you? BarsideJive.com.
The zoo gives you rock for the senses. Lows that evolve into highs that pierce. Feel the rock on 98.